And I read that piece. I think you wrote it, Gerry, around Ultralearning and the 9-step principle and
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's fantastic. It's definitely a book on my list. So, haven't,
it's super interesting.
do you want to just talk a little bit about that? Because I'd love to get that, so for our audience as well. If you could just talk about this 9-step, just summarize it, this 9-step concept. But it's a fantastic book. It's by Scott H. Young, I think,
Yes.
called Ultralearning. But yeah, do you want to just talk a bit about that as
Yeah,
well?
so basically, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't remember all the 9 pages. But
Fine.
what it does is it breaks down a way in learning which doesn't necessarily focus on, looking at formal structured courses and that side of things, but looking at really focusing on how you as an individual learn, and then using that to pick up skills that are, skills that might not necessarily be those, more obvious things that you do day to day or technical things that you do, but are more, I guess, as you said earlier on, soft skills or things that you want to pick up because you're really motivated to learn those things rather than learning for the sake of getting a certificate at the end of it, for example. And I think those things can be done as part of it, but it's fascinating what the human brain can do when you set it up a certain way, and when you understand how you learn, and then you actually target in on how you learn and set things up so that you're learning in that way on any specific. I mean, he talks about all sorts of things like learning French in 3 months, or going from never having spoken before to competing in the world championships of the public speaking contest and stuff like that. Like fascinating examples of things that people have learned by dedicating themselves to learning in this specific way. And I mean, I can give you a link to it. It's up on our site now, so you can perhaps put it up and people can connect through to it. But it really is fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm using it myself, actually, in terms of writing and trying to improve my writing skills using that. And it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think it's a really good resource. So, we've all got certain aspects, because I like the point of avoiding that there was a bit around avoiding things, and we avoid the things that are painful, the things that are hard to learn and stuff. And but nothing can be fun. Not every aspect of what we need to learn to advance our careers, to advance ourselves as individuals. Not all. In fact, the most important stuff is usually the most painful, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's a really interesting concept to be able to learn a different way to learn. So you can take this stuff that's, I've got a ton of things that are awfully painful that I need to do that I put off till the last minute because it just hurts so much. But when I do force myself to do it, it's not an enjoyable experience. Yeah, I do grow as a person individually, but it's always very, very painful. So, that's I think it's applicable to what we're talking about. Absolutely, to adaptation and the skill sets within the companies and so on.
The focus thing I found really useful in that as well. So learning how to focus and learning how to avoid distractions and learning how to set yourself up in a way that when you're saying, right, I'm going to learn for this block of time, you are 100% in that and doing it, and nothing else will distract you throughout that time. I think that was super interesting to me and made a massive difference, like a noticeable difference. Literally, the minute I put the book down, the next thing that I did made a noticeable difference in terms of how I tried to focus my mindset on doing it. And the experimentation side of things as well, I think is really useful as well. That being open to experimenting and getting feedback quickly to then look at iterating whatever you're doing. And I think, there's some fascinating stuff in there. It's definitely well worth a read.
Check it out. Yeah, definitely on my list. I think, what was it? Someone once said that multitasking is a myth. It's not a thing. It's something we've been led to believe is productive, and it's just not at all. Okay, so changing the topic a little then, I guess we definitely have to ask this question. How has the pandemic affected the recruitment climate? I mean, we've seen the working world change drastically. Obviously, a lot more of the job roles there now can't require you to be in-house, as it were. Just generally, how have you seen the recruitment market or the recruitment climate change due to the pandemic? How has that changed your business and your approaches? And
I think it's changed it drastically. It's literally fast forwarded what I think would have happened, but it's just brought it into reality that much quicker. And I think it's shown who's been behind the curve with a number of aspects, whether it be technology, but again, it comes back to the human side as well. I think a lot of it is around trust. Managers who didn't want to enable people to work from home or work remotely and now have been shown to be really behind the curve. The same type of mindset of person that didn't want to do remote interviewing, for example, now it's the new way of going through a process. And I think it's speeding things up in general. So where we were with the first lockdown is very different to where we are now. I think because of the vaccine and seeing light at the end of the tunnel, companies are able to put plans in motion. So recruitment is definitely moving. And in terms of the processes, they're moving that bit quicker because it's literally setting up Zoom calls or Teams meetings with people. Which is, I think, even from a client point of view, in terms of a hiring manager, they're not having to they're blocking out that 1 hour of time to speak to somebody. It's not the whole process of coming in, meeting with somebody face to face. So the whole interview process seems to move along that bit quicker. People are that bit more flexible with when they can actually conduct interviews. And the same with onboarding people as well. You'd think it'd be an issue to get somebody set up with computers, get them set up with meetings. But that, again, companies seem to have really moved quickly on that side to getting the equipment couriered out. And again, getting people introduced with Teams meetings, getting them up to speed with HR, again, everything online. So it's sped forward, I think, what would have happened. That bit quicker, and I think there's a lot of positives that will come out of it, that will, not just from a recruitment perspective, but I think from a company to be able to adapt and cope with decision making that much quicker. There's a lot of the positions at sort of C-suite level that we deal with where we would be waiting on hiring managers coming in from the US or flying in to do an interview. Now they don't need to eyeball somebody because they don't have the option to do that. I think in an ideal world, people may well go back to that for certain roles when things open up, but it's showing people it can be done another way. And it's showing as well that putting trust in people to do work and to be able to manage things on their own, it does work. So the whole collaboration, I think, in terms of the working environment and the new hybrid type of setup, it will be, I think when people do get back to the office, it will be a different working style, working environment. It will be, right, we're here now as a team or part of a team. We're going to bounce ideas off each other. We're not going to sit isolated behind laptops in rows. We're going to sit together and we're going to discuss problems, what we're doing. And then obviously when we're going through the work, we can do that individually at home. But when we're here, let's make the time of being here as a collective. And I think it's changing the whole approach companies have to work. And I think recruitment has just been an offshoot of that. And I think it's been positive, really positive. And managers that have been adverse to doing things have been forced to do interviews remotely, and they've seen the benefits in it. And I don't see there'll be a position where people go backwards now. I think once we come through this, the other side, I think a lot of these things will be here to stay, basically.
There's no normal, as it were, to go back to. No. This pandemic set a new precedent, a new way of working. And actually, it's not a new way of working. I think you said it, Matt. It's just brought it forwards. It's all of the tools have been here already. But I've seen some great innovations since the pandemic has started. And, there's some fantastic ways that I've seen people collaborating and working together. And I think you're absolutely right. With regards to making that office time more precious, people really do value that time together in the even from my kind of experiences, when I do actually get to see people, I don't want to waste the time. As you say, I wouldn't necessarily say I hide behind a laptop, but I don't want to waste my time. I want to get the most out of that interaction as I can. We get the most productivity out of that time, and you know, get the most done. So it definitely, the balance works with technology today.